Hello and welcome to Megan's Social Media Marketing Show. This is the next installment of Get to Know Your Customer Through the Enneagram. And this is super special because I'm actually IRL with my friend, Gabby Ballom. And she has agreed to talk to you all about what it's like being on social media as an Enneagram Type 2. So thank you so much for doing this, Gabby. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to just have this conversation. I love talking about the Enneagram with you.
Oh, awesome. Yes, we have lots of chats about the Enneagram.
All the time.
Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, Gabby.
Yeah, so I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I met my husband in college. We moved out to Cleveland. We have 2 kiddos, a 5-year-old girl and an almost 2-year-old boy. And I actually work with Hope Writers, where I met Megan, and I'm the affiliate manager. So I do a lot with affiliate marketing.
Wonderful. She's amazing at her job. It's
a
perfect job for her, as we will hear about Enneagram Type 2s. If you're not aware with them, and if you don't have a 2 in your life, you'll learn a lot today. So I'm going to read a description of the Enneagram 2 in case people aren't aware, and you can tell me if this fits you, Gabby.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and this description is from the EnneagramInstitute.com. It's a reference I highly recommend for anyone to go check out. 2s are empathetic, sincere, and warm-hearted. They are friendly, generous, and self-sacrificing, but can also be sentimental, flattering, and people-pleasing. They are well-meaning and driven to be close to others, but can slip into doing for others in order to be needed. They typically have problems with possessiveness and with acknowledging their own needs. At their best, though, they are unselfish and altruistic. They have unconditional love for others. Is there anything you relate to in there, Gabby?
So many things. Some of those things, I don't like to blow up my own head with all of those compliments that I heard in there. But so many of those things, especially asserting yourself to be needed. I tend to do that, but yes, I love people. I love helping people. I find myself doing a lot of things where I can do acts of service for others. And so a lot of that definitely resonates with me.
Well, and as we start our conversation about social media, I just want to preface to people that there is a difference between some of the things that Gabby says might just be a Gabby thing. Mm-hmm. It might just be her personal preferences for things, not necessarily out of her personality type. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody has their own unique selves with unique quirks, and it does not necessarily mean maybe Gabby prefers, I don't know, Twitter or something like that, that all Enneagram 2s are this way. But our heart in this interview is to give you an idea and a feel for, is my customer an Enneagram 2? Or how can I better serve the Enneagram 2s that are my customer? So with that, Gabby, can you tell me just a little bit about your overall consumption of social media? What does that look like in your life? Maybe time spent or times of day, platforms, just in general, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so overall, I mean, obviously, I think it's changed as I've become a mom. I don't know if this is true for you, but the season of life where your kiddos are little, it is a little bit different because in college, that's when Instagram and Twitter really became big for me, like 10 years ago. And so I jumped on every chance I could get to be a part of a new social media platform. And now as I grow, I'm learning that for my own health with consumption, I tend to pull back a little bit. And so right now, Instagram is the first thing that I check when I wake up. And it's probably the last thing that I check before I go to bed. I'm also on Facebook because a lot of family and friends from college they're all on there. So that's really easy to stay connected. I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups and things like that. And so that community and connection is really easy on Facebook for me. But I find that I do lean more toward Instagram and I have a preference for that. I know Pinterest is more so of like a search engine, but you can still connect on there. And I love Pinterest. It really gets me because I feel like my consumption of content, it always begins with aesthetic and then content. So that's kind of what I search for. And then I'm I'm off of Twitter, and I'm sure we can probably talk about that more later on. I did use Snapchat for a while, and then I've kind of pulled back from that. And so I'm on TikTok now, but that's pure consumption, not to post, because I'm too much of a perfectionist when it comes to the post and the reels and things. And so thankfully you, Megan, have encouraged me to just give it a shot.
Forced her to record things.
But to do more reels and, explore creativity through that, which is really nice.
Good. Love it. Okay. You talked about Instagram being your favorite. But overall, when you think about social media, when you're scrolling, what are you looking for? I mean, where does your brain go? Are you merely looking at the pictures, or are you looking for information? Like, where does your attention go when you're scrolling?
Yeah, I think it's something that I can connect with emotionally and something that really resonates with me. And so a lot of times I look at the picture. The picture is what stops my scroll, obviously, for most people. But if it's like aesthetically pleasing as I'm scrolling upward, that's what's going to stop my scroll. But then I look for the story and for the vulnerability from someone who's posting, or even if it is just a one-liner quote, like if it's something that's engaging and that I can resonate with and then share with someone else who I think can also resonate with that, that's what I'm looking for. And a lot of times I find that I end up supporting a brand or purchasing something from a brand because of the story behind the brand or the story behind the person. And I also feel like with Instagram, if I can find a gift for someone else, because I love giving gifts, and there's a story and a connection, I am the type of person that I look for things with deep meaning that I can share with someone else. So whether that be a post or something of encouragement or a gift that I know would mean a lot to someone else, those are the kind of things that I'm seeking out when I'm on Instagram.
Gift. To be the gifter of things to other one. I see. So what are your pet peeves for things on social media, or things that just hit you the wrong way?
So my husband and I always joke, but I think it's pretty true. A pet peeve of mine is when someone is rude. And so if I see a post that's like degrading or putting someone else down or just being flat out rude, like that's just, it really rubs me the wrong way. And so I'm like, I don't know if I could follow that person. I don't know if I could consume any more of that content. And then also I do try to put it through the lens of who's sharing the post, but I tend to look for like, is the lighting right? Is the balance right? Like, how does this, did they put a filter on here that actually looks good and like makes things pop and things like that too. So I'm not sure what part of me is really drawn to the imagery and the aesthetic of that. But there are a lot of things that especially when it comes to people that I know really well, like my husband or my mom, I'm like, why would you post something like that? So, yeah.
Okay. Is there something in particular that brands or companies online do that drive you crazy marketing wise?
I think really it's just, I like to seek out authenticity. And so when it feels like it's like a little bit too salesy, and like there's really like I want to feel like there's a person behind the post, and even if it is like a social media manager, because I've done that before for organizations, I want to feel like there's a person behind that. And so if it feels like overly salesy, and I completely understand that, there are a lot of companies and stores and things like that's what they do. They sell to you, but they're not going to get my engagement, and I'm not really going to like follow or keep up with their feed.
If it's a faceless.
Yeah, if it's faceless and too
right.
salesy, they're not going to get my follow.
There you go. Yeah. So what makes you click on a link? What makes you want to go off of social media? Like what grabs your attention in that way?
A lot of times it's the free stuff, the lead magnets, especially if I feel like it can help me develop personally, or if it's something that I could share with a friend. Like I'm always on the lookout to try and help my friends either develop, kind of follow their dreams, do what they love to do. And so there will be things like my husband's an artist. So if it's something to help him kind of build as an artist and get his art out more, I'll see a link and that'll make me want to click off. But a lot of times it is like, is this going to add value to me as a person or the people that I'm surrounded by? So really, it's just like, is this adding value? And there are some things where I just see really cute like clothing and I'm like, oh, what's this? Let me check this out. But a lot of it does have to do with like the content and the image that's being posted or shared. But I am definitely that person. I do click through ads, especially in stories, and I want to see what they're about, and I want to see what free value they're offering. And then that's what's going to draw me in to see if I got value from this, then I can probably get more value from something that I'm paying for.
Okay. So you're an ad clicker.
I am an ad clicker.
On Instagram only or Facebook as well?
Mostly Instagram. On Facebook, there have been a few things, but on Facebook, I feel like it's mostly the service-based stuff that I'll click on. So if they're offering like coaching or things that I can apply to help me with things that I want to do eventually as I build up my own business.
And I heard you saying that if there was something that you wanted or other people in your life that you know and love, do you feel as a two, when you're processing information, you're always thinking of the other person or someone else that could benefit from this information, not just you, but your view is on others. Is that fair?
That is most certainly fair. I think I definitely, as I'm consuming something, whether it be just something purely for encouragement or like a funny meme. I love funny reels and funny memes, and I'm constantly sending them to the first person that pops in my mind when I see it. And yeah, especially if there's someone that maybe I don't know if I should send it to them, but I know that I may have like several followers that could benefit from that, I'm immediately going to share it to my stories.
That's great. That's good perspective. Are you attracted to live streams, things that are happening live? Is that something you usually consume, or if it just happens to be at the right time?
Yes, it depends. So, and I'm not sure what part of my personality this is, but sometimes I'm careful because have you ever popped into a live stream where there are only like 2 or 3 people and then your name pops up and you're like, oh, but if I leave now, are they gonna know that it was me that just left? And so sometimes I am careful, but I actually do really enjoy live streams. There are a couple that every time they have a live, I have to pop on. I have to know what they're talking about. Carlos Whitaker is one because some of his stuff is just so funny, or like clean jokes with Carlos and things like that. Like there are just those people that I know, like if I hop on their live, like I'm going to feel better. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to enjoy this time. And I can, go on with my day and in a happier mood. And those are the kind of lives that I look for.
But you also said you were careful on which ones you entered in because of your awareness of how the other people might perceive. Oh, there's only, that they would think of you if you were left, or if you comment, or if you don't comment, or how long you stay on. So you're very aware of what others are potentially thinking about you or feeling about you.
All the time, Megan, all the time.
Are you a huge liker and commenter on other people's things?
Yes. So I may not comment as much, but I definitely like things. And a lot of times it is because I'm constantly aware of how other people feel. And I know just with social media, there's obviously a healthy balance, but you know that your post is getting the engagement and traction that you want when you're receiving those likes and comments and things. And so I will definitely like if I know the person as I'm scrolling, I'm just going to like their post, because for me it just feels like I want you to know that I see you and I want you to know that your post is being noticed. And so when it comes to people that I know, I'm definitely going to like it. I'll probably share like a comment, an emoji, something like that. But when it comes to like marketing and things, if it catches my eye, I immediately like it. Like if it's something that I'm like, oh, that's neat, or that's pretty, or that's really cool, like I'm going to like it immediately. And I should know that on the other side, they don't really know how I'm feeling. But when I like it, I, for some reason, assume that they know, like, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. What would make you think, kind of on the flip side of that, what could brands or companies, personal brands, those small people who are working on a bootstrap, what could they do that would make you feel loved and wanted on their feeds?
Yeah. So if someone responds back to a comment that I have, or they somehow give me a shout out, it's like that little bit of recognition and affirmation that they reciprocate the love that I've shown them by engaging with their post, that in turn, and the more that I talk, the more that I see, wow, this is really a two thing, isn't it?
Hey, everybody loves to be recognized. That's nicely, but it matters to you. It really does, and it might be more your top priority when others is lower. But no, that's why we have these conversations, to learn these things. Let's go through the platforms.
Yes.
And talk about that. We don't have to dwell on anyone necessarily, but just kind of like a quick, how do you feel about Facebook?
Facebook. I do not mind Facebook. It's an easy way for me to stay involved and engaged with family and people from my past, people from church, all of those things. But sometimes it can become too much. And I think Facebook is a place where a lot of opinions and comments can be shared. And I'm definitely not one for conflict, but I do get riled up. And so there's like this conflict of, I really want to say something, but then people might see what I say and then have a perception of me that I don't want them to have. And so let me not act out of my emotion right now. And that's my conflict with Facebook, just because it is a platform that a lot of controversial topics are shared and those conversations. And I just prefer to have one-on-one conversations when it comes to like topics that are controversial or whatever it may be. So it's like bittersweet. It's a bittersweet platform for me.
Gotcha. Instagram.
Yes, love Instagram. I get a lot of encouragement and I find a lot of inspiration from Instagram. And so I love that as a way to connect. And I'm a very visual person, as I've shared. So I think that's why I really enjoy Instagram, and then Pinterest as that social search engine.
How do you use Instagram most? Do you spend time on stories, feeds? What's your go-to?
Yeah. So when it comes to sharing, I share mostly on stories, like even if it's my own images or things. But when it comes to consumption, I feel like I'm a little bit more balanced now, where I do spend a lot of time in stories, but then I also spend a lot of time scrolling through my feed. And then because of Reels now, I'm finding that I go to the explore page a lot more often because it's just fun to get lost in the Reels that are on there.
You can get lost in the explore page. Definitely. That's adequately named.
Right.
Yeah. Do you spend a lot of time in DMs?
I do. I
I
do.
just thinking that's what you would say.
Yes, I spend a lot of time in DMs. Sometimes I have friends and family that I may not be responding as much in text, but we're like having like two conversations in text and in DMs that I've started. And so a lot of times that's obviously the way that you share what you see that makes you think of someone. So I share a lot of posts and stories through DMs, and then it's just a really quick and easy way to think of someone when their story pops up and then check in like, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? I miss you. So
yeah,
I'm definitely in
all
DMs
about that
a lot.
one-on-one.
Oh yeah.
All right. Twitter.
So I got off of Twitter probably right before I graduated college because there was this thing that was really big when I was in college, and we always talked about subtweeting. And
What is this?
so it's just like a passive aggressive way to like talk about someone else. And so you can just imagine like sometimes the drama that comes with being a kid, and a lot of times I would assume what someone else's tweet was about and assume that it was about me. Like if I knew the person, obviously. But I found that sometimes it's a pretty true thing to assume what someone else is feeling and thinking. And so I did end up taking myself off of Twitter just for my own social media health, I guess you could.
That's fair. That is very fair. Pinterest, you've mentioned you love Pinterest. How do you use it?
Yeah, so Pinterest, for the most part right now, is just where I draw all of my inspiration from. It is the first search engine that I go to. So I don't go directly to Google if I want like a recipe or an idea or to get a feel for what I want my home to look like, or a new room that we're redoing, or whatever that may be. Outfits, everything, including like if I'm setting up a blog and like, can I learn something from someone who's shared on Pinterest? And I do find that I click on a lot of Pinterest ads as well to see, oh, where can I get this? This looks amazing. And so, yeah, I do use Pinterest in that way. And I've actually found bloggers or brands that I now follow outside of Pinterest because I discovered them on Pinterest.
So do you have a ton of different boards and lots of pins on all the boards? And
yes, I have like a board for everything, every category of like home and organization and schooling for my kids and DIY crafts and DIY projects. I have boards for everything, including like seasons and outfits and holidays, all the things. I have all the boards.
Do you ever interact with the pinner, meaning do you comment on pins and interact that way?
Not a lot, but I have. Like sometimes I'll go back and just leave a comment like, oh, this recipe was so good. Or especially if I know the pinner and they're posting personal content, I do like to just share, even if it's an emoji, like I said, just to send a little bit of affirmation their way. Like, I see you out here.
Do you message pins through Pinterest to other people?
I do. I actually, more recently, I just send them through text message. So, you know how there's that feature where you can send it. And I think it's my mom and I love to do it. We do it all the time where we're constantly sending each other pins from Pinterest in text messages. This is so funny, but I've actually created a few boards for my best friend of things that I think of when I like I see a pin, I immediately think of her. I save it to one of the boards to organize it and then share it with her. Yes.
Let me get this straight. You create on your own profile.
On my own profile.
Boards for other people.
Yes.
That you populate with things you think they
would love.
I love that. It would have never occurred to me to create a board for my husband because I think you'd like all these, whatever it was, tools. I don't know. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've also created like a board for care packages for certain friends, like ideas for care packages to send them to. And so it'll be like Layla's care package. And like, that's the board that I create for her. But then, like we just mentioned, I create a board and sometimes I'll collaborate with my friends. Like, look at all of these pins that made me think of you.
Oh, wow. I love that.
It's a little extra.
Oh, but it's so good being friends with you for these reasons because you show love so well.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So LinkedIn, kind of 180 on you there from Pinterest to LinkedIn.
Very 180. Yeah. So I created a profile in college because they told us we'd need it. And then I have not used it since.
That's fair. All right. Moving on to YouTube.
YouTube. I am very active on YouTube. I actually really enjoy the community features on YouTube. Again, Megan, the more I talk, the more I see the
you're realizing.
So I do enjoy like the updates and things that certain YouTubers will post, but then I follow YouTubers and vloggers, but then I also use YouTube a lot for consuming music and sermons, TED Talks, all of these things to go watch, like shows that have clips that they've posted. I'll consume anything and everything on YouTube as long as I find it enjoyable.
There you go. Do you subscribe to different channels? Do you make lists of like favorites?
I do not do the playlist anymore. I mean, I do have a few playlists, but I do subscribe to channels because, you know, people just remind you that when you subscribe and you like and you comment, it helps grow their platform. And so
you want to be helpful.
I want to help you grow your platform.
I love that. That's so lovely. Okay. I think you mentioned this briefly, but TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Yes. TikTok is just where I go to get lost. I don't post on TikTok. My daughter loves to post on TikTok. But I found that I was spending a lot of time trying to make the perfect TikTok, and I was falling short of my expectations. So I just go to scroll and to laugh. That's where I find myself.
That's a good place to do that. Very good. Okay. Snapchat.
Yes, I don't use Snapchat as much anymore, but that was a really great way, especially after college, that I was able to keep in touch with friends and share things and this was prior to stories. So, you know, if you didn't want to create an entire post about it or have it be something permanent, it was really nice to use Snapchat in that way. I still use Snapchat for the filters.
Interesting.
Yes.
That is interesting. But that platform, I have every once in a while, a friend will send me a snap and I'll be like, really? Hope to go over there. But before stories, that used to be how my sister and I would see something at a store and we'd snap it to one another. So we always like, look at this. Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't want to save it on your phone, but
right.
Also in a snap. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I think we went through all of the platforms I could think of. Are there any ones that maybe are smaller or local or other ways that you use social media?
I don't think so. I think really I've just tried to kind of pull back, find the ones that I use the most and I enjoy the most, those ones that I can connect with people and, you know, keep it to that. But I do find that like some websites and blogs will have places where you can connect with other people like through their blog sites. And so sometimes I'll engage in those as well. But for the most part, we've shared where my time is spent.
Okay, great. So anything, like if you were sitting in a room with the marketing team of your favorite company, say like your favorite place to shop for clothes.
Okay.
What would you tell them was the most important thing to just have all the twos flock to them?
I'd say, let me know that you're doing something good for others. And so those companies that I see that are give back companies, and even if it's just like 10% of sales on Sundays go to a local or global nonprofit, that's going to engage me, and I'm going to want to support that company. I'm going to want to buy from them and know that I'm not, and of course I love supporting small businesses, local businesses, and even chains and all of those things. But if I know that they're doing good and they're giving back, that's going to want me to be a bigger supporter of them and to buy and to purchase. And I think that a lot of twos could probably agree with that as well.
That's such great insight. I would have never guessed that. That's such great insight. Thank you so much for doing this, for allowing me to grill you for a small amount of time. But, let's encourage everyone to rate, review, subscribe, all those twos out there. Support me, support us.
Yes.
And we thank you for joining us today as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Megan. It was a blast.
Oh, so much fun. Thank you.